Welcome back to Sessions with System and Soul. I'm McKenzie, and I'm here with my co-host and business partner, Benj Miller. This episode today is a special one. We're trying something new, and I think you're really going to love it. We're calling this type of session a hot seat. So there's a lot of really good work that happens behind the scenes, behind closed doors with the businesses that we work with the founders and owners and leaders within the companies we serve. And there's usually a lot to take away, but it's always a private conversation. And so we thought, what if we just open the door to that conversation? And we gave you a little bit of an inside look of what it's like to experience business coaching through somebody else. So we've got someone we're going to put in the hot seat today. We have no idea what we're going to talk about. We're going into this blind, and we're just going to have a discussion just like we would if we go into a business and work with a team. So Benj brought a friend today. Benj, who is your friend here with us?
My friend, my dear friend, my friend Sven Cowart. Sven, you are bold, courageous, and vulnerable for showing up for this. So I commend you there. And Sven and I was trying to remember this. I think worked together in three different companies. I can think of a fourth, maybe. I don't know. We've worked together in a lot of different ways over a lot of different years. Sven is uniquely brilliant, and I'll let you give us the intro of what you're doing now. Might set up the dynamics of the questions. I don't know. We don't know what the questions are that are coming. So Sven co-founded a business that I don't know. What's your role? What's the company? Tell us about it, Sven. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hey, happy to be here. So I'm the co-founder and CTO of a company called Elastiflow. We're in the observability space, specifically network observability. So our product is uniquely positioned to help people understand how their apps, services, and so on are connected and how traffic data and so on is flowing through those things. So our primary use cases are performance monitoring, exposing security vulnerabilities, and capacity planning of some sort.
And tell us who you co-founded the business with, because that's probably important.
Yeah. So I co-founded the business with my dad, Rob Cowart. Him and I, over the years, have always shared ideas, lots of ideas about tech, and he more or less stumbled into this idea that we're working through now and are in, I think, the fifth year of business, which is crazy to say. What's been really great is that we have very open and honest communication flows between the two of us since we are related. And a lot of people ask us, how can you guys work together? Because, sometimes with sibling things can get heated, or not siblings, but relatives, they're family members.
Family.
And I think both of us are just very logical people. So as long as there's merit in a conversation, we will step aside and allow merit to win.
Yeah. Literal German engineers, right? So you just
Exactly.
Is that your fighting style? German engineer fighting style?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah, that can have its benefits if you don't if the emotions don't ever show up to get in the way, then sometimes it can go faster. So tell us what you're struggling with in the business right now that we might be able to talk through, work through, help.
Sure. So as I was preparing for this, I thought of a few things, and I kind of came to a couple of points all around what I believe is caused by traditional corporate American jobs and employment at those jobs, and that's slowing down the efficiency at a much smaller company or even a larger company. But I mean, when you scale to very large sizes, things work differently. And so one of the things that has been challenging, particularly being a remote only company, is this idea of how do you create a huddle culture? When we were back in offices, it was really easy to just, my coworker's sitting next to me and I'm like, hey, I got this problem. Can you take a look?
Right.
That's really hard to recreate in a remote environment. I think there's a lot of pros to being all remote, but this is something that has come up, and particularly I found I keep needing to just reinforce with every new hire that comes in. How to speak in public forums. Just Slack me and we'll huddle on it, right? And consistently make that a point. And and I guess the question is there a way to make that an organic part of the culture that the company follows in a remote setting? And this might be a tough question.
I don't know. It's an interesting one. I'm wondering, the first thing that came to mind, just are you seeing anything different between different generations and the way that they approach the desire and need and initiative to huddle?
That's a good question. I would say probably comes easier to the generation that started working during COVID or early COVID, I would even say.
Okay.
Like the youngest folks of the company. But I wouldn't say that it's not even solved there. What I find is a lot of people, they wait for meetings to be presented with information instead of just going to seek it themselves. So yeah, and I wouldn't say it's necessarily a generational thing, because I see it in, I mean, I don't know, like I feel like my generation, I'm a young millennial, I should say. I'm like right on the border. I even see it there, and I would expect to not see it there if it was a generational thing.
Yeah. What do you think the impact to the business is?
So information is really important so that people can act and move forward, which kind of leads me to my next point, which the question was, I want to build a culture where agency is rewarded. And how do you do that? Because this kind of comes back to for me, it comes back to, if I'm operating under a level of high agency, I'm just going to go get the information, even if there isn't or is not a regularly scheduled meeting, or poke somebody until they answer me, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, what the way it impacts the business the most, it just slows things down. Like if people don't have the right information at the right time, they might make the wrong decision, and that could lead to. So we write software, and the people that I lead are all software engineers, but they could be working on the wrong problem for a week or two, or with the wrong solution for a week or two.
Yeah.
Right, because the regularly scheduled meeting hasn't come up yet, and so it's just in the cycle of that.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that come to mind. One is that that agency word. I love that. I'm a huge fan. There's people that don't understand that word. It might actually, you got to be careful to define it, because some people think, oh, I'm responsible for myself, therefore I'm not going to ask for help, I'm not going to seek information, and they could actually become more siloed if they're like, oh, I just have to have agency by myself.
Right.
You said I want to reward agency, and I think that that's a good way to think about how do you build a culture, is how do I reward the things that I'm seeing. I think there's probably like a little bit of a carrot and a stick there. So how are you just calling it out? Like, is it a value or something in your organization that you can call out and celebrate when you see it? And then on the other side, is there some pain that shows up? Like, hey, you didn't hit this KPI, you didn't get your objective because you waited too long. And so is there something that almost forces someone to have to get that information because of the urgency that they can't wait? So maybe there's like this almost tension that you can build between agency and urgency, right? I have the agency to take care of, go solve the problem, seek the thing, whatever. And I have this urgency that, like, I'm not going to let anybody else get in my way. If I need something, we've got to move at the speed of business. McKenzie, I'm curious what comes up for you, because you're like the queen of culture and kind of live some of these same tensions.
I was gonna say, Sven, I'm like so with you on this, because our team is remote too, and we've got people in all kinds of time zones, and I mean we have there's a
Same.
lot of working hours where we're all together, and like we use Slack. We like live and die by Slack as a way of communicating, but there's still stuff that gets, lost in the shuffle. Or I have definitely been in the position of like, why did we wait on that? Like, why are we hearing about this 7 days later? And of course that all comes back to like, what can I do to make sure that doesn't happen again with our team?
Yeah.
There's like two things that come to mind. One of them is a straight up like systems thing. And like, I know this is a different industry, but I wonder if there's an application. God bless Chris Ames, who's on our team, who has made our lives so much better in the last like year that he's working with us. He's implemented, like, he talks about visibility all the time. Like if we're having a conversation about in this case software issue, like he's like, we always, like, the practices, put it in this Slack channel. And then we've implemented a project management tool that gives visibility to everybody, like at the stage in the process of solving a problem or getting something coded, that like it keeps everybody at the informed at the right points in the loop. And we've just, like, some of that has been like finding the right tool that does what we need it to do and provides the visibility. And then the annoying and hard part is just getting everybody to use it. Like
Right.
we just like have to, like, for several weeks we had to be like, put that in linear. It's called linear. Put that in linear. Put that in linear. Put that in linear. Like that. That should go here. That should go here. Like we just had to keep kind of beating the drum on that. But we just made the decision. Like, I think that was important for our team, is to make the decision of like, we use this tool. This is what we use this for. And so we know this is where information belongs. This is where the thread is. This is where the reminders come in. Like, that systematic process has been incredibly important. And then the other like leadership piece that I have to, like, this is so hard for me, but it sounds like you're already doing this as you onboard people, is like just really establishing their decision rights up front, of like, here's what you have not just ownership over, but this is where you can make like decisions by yourself up until we get to this point. And then I want to give you feedback on this, or I need to get approval from this. But like, I'm really like, I'm in the middle of learning to do that. And I'm finding that like I sometimes have to be like far more specific and clear than I would think that I have to be. But that's been huge. Like just talking about and thinking about, what decision rights have I given everybody on our team, and where do they know that they need to get a feedback loop, or where do they feel like they have 100% autonomy, and just like straight up communicating it. Like to somebody the other day, I was like, you don't have to ask me about that anymore. And like, and I hope the tone sounded okay, but I said it in a way that was like, you don't have to ask me about that anymore. Like, it's up to you. It's like, do your thing. But I think I
find myself saying that all the time. Like, I don't need to make this decision. And
that's good.
I don't know if it's something that's unique because like I have co-founder in the title or something. I don't know if it's a title thing or what it is, but I tell people all the time, I don't need to make the decision. Like, we've hired you because you're incredibly competent, incredibly talented. I trust you to make the decision more than myself. And that's kind of how I see it. Because I'm not there with all the data and facts surrounded by it all the time. So
I think there's another part of that though, is like, if you need help thinking through it, that's different than asking my permission.
Right.
And then there is some ceiling to which people don't necessarily have the authority to make that call on their own. So if they have a sense of where that is, to McKenzie's point, I worked with a guy who repeated the phrase, "we work out loud," all the time. And so like in a remote environment, you also like nobody knows what you do, right? So if you work out loud and it's like, hey, we just pushed this, we just had this, you just get credit for the things you're doing, so to speak, but it's not to get credit. It's so when somebody else sees that and they go, oh, well, that could help us over here. I need to know that to let customers know, or that could really affect our roadmap, whatever that is. Like now we've got some just information flowing. I also think that it's really important in there's behavioral change that has to happen here.
Yeah.
So there's an upfront and there's an ongoing. And the upfront, I think it's really important that you share your heart and the business case. So your heart is like, I want us to be more collaborative. I want us to be high trust and, all the things that you kind of started with that you desire. And the business requires this, because if we don't, we're going to break down. We're going to be in silos. We're going to slow down, all of those things. So the heart and the business case. And then maybe the most annoying thing in all of leadership, it's behavior change. So you're going to have to say it like 100 times before they start saying it for you. And that's part of the process.
I feel like that's maybe where I'm stuck on, because it feels like I have to say it 100 times. And it's when it sinks in, it's immediate change.
Yeah.
I can tell. And it's actually really amazing to see.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually love the work out loud thing. I've been saying work in the open.
Mhm.
We have several, most of our Slack channels are open. There are a few private ones because it's sensitive information that can't talk about in public spaces, but almost every team has an open Slack channel and they're communicating within those Slack channels. And that's something that we've tried, and it works. And I don't know if there's this human tendency to over time kind of just pull in back into more private forums where you have a group of 4 or 5 people that are DMing each other, instead of using that public space. And when that happens, then you're not working out loud using your words.
Yeah.
And then those information silos come back up and cause problems where things slow down.
Something super silly. You could create like a little, custom animated emoji reaction that when you see somebody working out loud, that you as the leader are always replying to like reinforce, like, hey, kudos. I see you maybe forcing yourself. Maybe it's natural, but maybe forcing yourself to work out loud and share that. So it sounds like you're thinking the right things, doing the right things, and you're just in the hard middle of culture change is big and hard and long, and most people give up before they get to the results.
Right.
But think about the carrot and the stick a little bit,
Yeah.
and how you can reinforce behavior. But hey, did you have one more while you're here? You said you had a list.
Yeah, absolutely. I have quite a few, but let me read you a couple, and then we'll just see where it goes, and you can pick which one you want to talk about. If that
Love
works.
that.
Sven, what? This is going to turn into a paid session if you're not careful.
Well, Benj owes me some favors. As sure as I owe him some too. So, titles causing information silos. That's something that was very interesting, that happened, and I don't know how to address it.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah. So in the software world, let me give you the context, because I think it's important to understand. Otherwise, that probably won't lead to a very meaningful conversation. But in the software world, typically what you have is this ladder of, where do you rank? How many years of experience do you have? What's your impact on the organization? And so a traditional typical branch of it is, you're a software engineer, you're an intern, you're a junior, you're a mid, you're a senior. And at the senior level, then it branches into your staff software engineer, or you're an engineering manager. And it goes up from there into, on the staff side, senior staff, principal, distinguished, fellow, and so on. And on the EM side, it can go senior EM, director, VP, and so on. The exact structure differs depending on the organization you're a part of. But the general idea is that in any given team you have, and not everyone does it this way, but there's a large section of the software world that does it this way, but each team has an engineering manager and has a staff engineer. And think of it as the engineering manager is responsible for performance reviews and hiring decisions and so on, and the project management of the team. And the staff engineer is responsible for that technical vision and setting a bar of technical excellence for the rest of the organization, as well as making sure that anything that relates to the technical visions across the teams gets properly propagated and communicated to other teams, where like other software teams or not software teams, and a little bit of shared responsibility in that for the EMs and the staff engineers. What's recently happened, which was unexpected, was that particularly to the groups outside of the product and engineering organization, they were not going through the staff engineers, or they were only going through the staff engineers and the EMs to get information or provide information. And recently, someone pointed out that he told me that, I feel like I'm not included in this conversation, or I wasn't sent the invite in this conversation because I don't have the staff title on my thing, the staff annotation on my title. And it's like, oh man, I hear you. He's totally right. That's exactly what happened. And it's really unfortunate that something like a title prevents people who don't have a very specific title from being included in conversations that they should be, because he was a subject matter expert on the specific thing we were talking about. So it was very clear that he should have been included, even though he doesn't have a staff or an engineering management title, right? And so how do you balance, and actually what's really interesting, you bring up Linear App. He has a great podcast on organizational design, and they don't even have titles at all. And so this is something I'm trying to balance and figure out, is how do you some people are motivated by titles and ladders, and there is maybe potentially value in knowing, oh, this person is a subject matter expert of this thing, so it's good to go to them. But to Linear's point, and I forget who it was on their team that talked about this, but it does create these information silos, which is why they just said no titles. Everyone's just a software engineer or a manager, and that's it.
I think that titles are really, really helpful to put on LinkedIn for the outside world. And internally, they have almost zero value. And what's more important is getting really, really clear on the structure of the organization and who does what, who owns what, who's responsible for what, and having that updated and visible so the whole organization can be clear about that and know who to invite to what or ask somebody. Does having no titles solve it? I have no idea.
Right.
But I do think that unless you're in like a medical field where I really want to know who's a RN and a nurse practitioner and an actual doctor and a surgeon, like those things really, really matter. People want to advance in their career, which is why the ladder does matter. People want to feel like they're growing and advancing. Does a title need to come with that? Maybe not. Again, we're back to the LinkedIn. Most people are fear-based, and so what they're thinking is if I'm not working here for whatever reason, I've got to go work somewhere else. So I need this. It's a scarcity mindset. I need this as a backup plan to be able to go and get the same job or a better job somewhere else when I'm not here. So internally, I don't know if this was like a one-off or happens all the time, but I would probably try and solve it without solving the title thing, or solve it
That's a good point.
by minimizing the title thing, and getting really clear. Like something else broke down. I'm not even sure. I wouldn't be convinced it was just because of title.
Do you think
Yeah.
it's a communication gap from the engineering, I'm going to try to get the words right, but engineering manager and the staff engineer? Like, do they oftentimes collaborate on the people that they're leading and the projects that are being led?
Yeah, so they collaborate every single day. It's not actually it's not between them, it's between external people. So a product manager or someone in marketing that
They don't
has a
know.
specific ask, or yeah, and they don't know the intricacies of the org design. So maybe just thinking out loud here, it could just be educational, like something that I need to do to educate the rest of the org outside of engineering on how things work.
Yeah, most of, I'm not saying this is you, but most of what I see in organizations is that somebody at the top thinks the organization's really clear and nobody underneath has any idea. They might understand where they fit, but they don't understand how the whole organization, they don't have visibility to it. And that's where we get even some of those metrics, like, kudos for
Yeah.
working out loud, right? Like that can be a metric, and your velocity, which can be impacted by other people not, staying in your silo, all those things. That's how it starts to work together. But having a published, updated, visible org chart to give people that clarity can do a lot. And even letting people know, like, oh, when Sven comes to me and he has this urgency about X, it's because that's his KPI and he's trying to drive that. So it might not mean anything to me, but he's getting measured on that. So
Mhm.
now I know how I contribute. My work contributes to Sven's work, and you can play that same scenario across the whole organization.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I don't think I'll take that. I don't think I've done a good job in informing the other folks at Elastiflow, not just the engineering department, what the org structure is of an engineering team, which is not very clear from the outside.
Oh yeah, engineering's one magic box where we have hopes and dreams and we throw it in there and we hope someday to get a feature back out.
Right. Yep. Shouldn't
That's
be
all
like
we know.
that.
And we have no idea why it takes so long. Add that in there.
What's been working really good is when the non-EM and the non-staff folks, they work with the rest of the organization regularly, because it just the information, like, it's starting to happen now a little bit, and I can see it increase velocity and accuracy of what's being built and output, which is super important.
Yeah. We're working on I'm speaking as somebody who's working on something, not who has perfected it, but we're also working right now to implement like a try and tell, like across the organization. Just like, what did you try this week that's new, whether it's a new technology or a new, you're trying to figure something out, and just getting in the practice of like creating little Loom videos or whatever to share what you're learning, what you're trying to figure out, what you're playing with, what worked, what didn't work. Because as the organization grows and you're like, hey, there's this new tool, well, you don't really need 7 different people checking out the new tool that don't know that the other people are doing it. So especially how fast technology is moving right now, and the tools that we have available, it's like somebody could be checking it. There's something new every day if you're not careful.
There's another thing that at time, and I don't know if I would be curious if you think this or feel this, Sven, but sometimes it feels like that kind of like cross collaboration and over communication can feel like wasting time, or like it could slow us down. But like what you just said is it honestly speeds things up. And I think it's a little bit counterintuitive. But one of the things that I love about our team is we've got this, like, we do these weekly meetings, and I'm sure you have your own cadences, but like we bring together our, I'm representing marketing. We've got our customer support person. We've got our 2 engineers, and we've got our project manager. And the blend of things that we're all working on are very, very different. And like a lot of what I'm doing has no relevancy to our engineers, but like we still like kind of force that meeting every week to bring things to the table that we all touch, because we all bring that unique perspective. And like, especially when it comes to like the way that I'm looking at something and how it is displayed to the public, like to the potential buyer, how our